comments on the mutiny thing just surprised me because he was the one himself who left it up to governors to decide whether they wanted to practice social distancing, shelter-at-home provisions that each governor would decide. He was never critical of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, among the more later entrants in that policy, and worked with governors on getting them everything they needed, and that whatever the states need, it's their responsibility. So the states say they ultimately want to decide, as the Constitution provides, for whether it's safe or not to reopen. And then all of a sudden, it's a bad mutiny on the bounty. That I don't get. The Constitution allows them to do that.
It is a big 180 from the president here in the last, couple days or so, because you're right. At the end of the day, the Constitution says it is left up to the states as it relates to regulating the health issues within their own boundaries. I can tell you, Neil, when I had asked multiple of the senior-most level officials within the White House, the vice president himself, Larry Kudlow, the vice president's chief of staff, over the last 2-3 weeks when I had posed the very same question, what do you think you can do at the federal level? All three had essentially said, provide guidance. That's what they think that they can do with the executive branch. The federal government can provide guidance, and that the states would then, in theory, follow that guidance, like, for the most part, they have up until this point. But yesterday was a complete 180 with the president saying that he has total authority. And then you get this tweet today, again, Neil, on the very same morning that the president is meeting with those who have triumphed and have made it past COVID-19, at least for the moment, saying, quote, a good old-fashioned mutiny every now and then is an exciting and invigorating thing to watch. There's a lot of hurt and a lot of struggle going on in this country right now, and I'm not sure how many folks would agree with that sentiment. Neil?
Well, you know, one other thing, and then I'll let you go, my friend, but what's very, very clear in this discussion, and Larry Kudlow raised it with Stuart Varney, this idea of a partial return to work, maybe a rolling return to work. He didn't use those words, I just did. But this idea that what might apply to one part of the country might not apply to the other part of the country, and that's essentially what the 6 Northeastern governors were saying. That is essentially what Gavin Newsom and his counterparts in Washington State and Oregon are saying. One size does not fit all. They all are on the same page with that. So I don't understand all of a sudden this ridiculous argument back and forth that shouldn't be an argument. They agree. They all agree.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all even within the states, Neil, because look at where you sit right now in New York State. You've got the New York City mayor, Bill de Blasio, coming out today, I believe, essentially not committing at this point for school reopening up until September. I asked that of Dr. Fauci last week in the briefing, saying, should parents think that schools would be open come the start of the next calendar year? So you've got not only the states who have their say, but in a lot of local municipalities, whether it be as big as New York City or any other city across this country, the mayors who have their say as well. And you're right, you see basically in the Northeast those governors banding together because what impacts New York a lot of times impacts New Jersey, impacts Connecticut, and so forth. And they think, and it's a lot of Republican thinking, conservative thinking, that, you know what, states' rights. And states know best. And by the way, the Constitution lays this whole thing out. It's a fairly conservative argument time and time again. Yet the president, conservative, the Republican in the White House, is now sort of flipping the switch, doing the 180, saying that he believes he has, quote unquote, total authority. It is a big shift, and one that a lot of legal experts would say the Constitution disagrees.
And it creates a legal nightmare, potential for one, with lawsuits, no doubt, that go back and forth at a time we don't need it. But again, maybe we're overinterpreting this, but it is a little discomforting. I don't want to belabor this point. Blake, thank you very, very much. But to illustrate, Congress can invoke its power under the Commerce Clause. Notice what I said there. Congress can do this, not the President of the United States, on the theory that state restrictions such as stay-at-home orders have a substantial effect on interstate commerce. So be aware of pre-existing statutes, but understand that Congress then has the control of the purse string in this case, not the President of the United States. So if it went so far as Congress pushing for something and the states weren't complying, even then our forefathers said you have to watch that very, very carefully. You cannot withhold aid to force an opinion on a state or any other another jurisdiction. It's clearly kind of spelled out here. So it is not to say that the president lacks a powerful bully pulpit. He indeed does. And he can force an issue and state it again, as he does in a lot of these briefings, but it is not the law of the land. It is not in our Constitution. And it invites a sort of confusion on the part of people who want to know, you've granted us, the states, the power to do a lot of the things you said we should decide at our level, and now you come up with a decision that is counter to that. We are the ones ignoring policy and the Constitution. It's crazy. Anyway, maybe it's just much ado about nothing, and hopefully cooler heads will prevail, and those that read the Constitution of the United States. All right, in the meantime, you've probably noticed what's happening. The corner of Wall and Broadway got a huge run up here because